Hello, everybody. My name is Ryan Koki of the Seahawk Recap Show, and welcome to another off-season video for your Seattle Seahawks. Today, I thought it was time, because it's April, we're getting into draft content season, and because the Seahawks news is a little bit lackluster as we head into the NFL draft, I decided to do some mock drafts for you guys. Today is going to be my first mock draft. So get prepared for that and get excited for that because I'll start doing a little bit more as we head into the 2026 draft in Pittsburgh for your Seattle Seahawks. And I will say off the hop that I am not a college football watcher. I don't watch college football as much as I should. So these are based off of my opinion. These are based off of top 30 visits that the Seahawks have already conducted with some of these draft prospects. And I'm also going through combine grades and a little bit of research that I can find on some of these players to make my picks. But without me rambling on too much more in the intro, let's get into doing the first mock draft of 2026 for your Seattle Seahawks. If you like this video, please consider giving a like. It lets me know if I'm doing a good job with these videos or not. And if you would please consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss out on any more Seahawks future content, that would be greatly appreciated. First, my positions of need and the Seahawks draft pick order. So, first position of need for the Seahawks. When I'm looking at positions of need, it would be at corner. I think the Seahawks still need to draft a corner in this year's draft. That should be one of their top priorities. And with guys like Devin Witherspoon and Josh Jobe and Noah Igbenogany, I think getting another corner in there to replace the Reek Woolen, who just exited in free agency, would be a great pickup. Next is edge rusher. With after losing Boye Mafe to free agency, the Seahawks need to fill in that spot at edge rusher as a fourth rotational edge rusher that they will need. So I think going into this year's draft, they should potentially pick up an edge rusher in this year's draft. So next is running back. They have a running back issue. Their running back room is a little thin. Now, they did address that by grabbing Emmanuel Wilson, and they still have George Halani, and they have Jacardia Wright, but they have no more Kenneth Walker, and Zach Charbonnet is still dealing with his ACL, so he will need some time this season, about midway through this season, to get back fully healthy. So the Seahawks should take a running back in this draft, and by all accounts, John Schneider likes taking running backs in the NFL draft, even when the running back room isn't as thin as it is now. The next position of need is at guard. With Anthony Bradford having his contract being up at the end of this year, I would not be surprised if the Seahawks do end up taking a guard at some point in this draft. Now, they only have 4 picks, so that might be a little, they might not take a guard in this draft, but it would be nice to see, because the only thing I can see me nitpicking from this year's Super Bowl winning team was that the right side of this offensive line just wasn't good enough. And I think by taking a guard, that would kind of fix their issue. Maybe they'll find their next Gray Zabel at right guard. And next is safety. So with losing Kobe Bryant, you probably want to grab a safety because they have Ty Okada under contract, they have Rodney Thomas under contract, and they have a couple other guys like D'Anthony Bell under contract as well. But I think also those are 1-year contracts. So they might take a shot at safety in this draft. Let's get to the draft pick order. So they have the first round pick, 32nd overall. Is that a trade down pick? Now, in this mock draft, there are no trades in this mock draft for now. But I do believe the Seahawks should trade that pick and get more quantity over quality with that pick by using it to trade down. The Seahawks also have a second round pick, 64 overall. They have a third round pick, 96th overall, and they have a 6th round pick, 188 overall. So I will have 4 picks in this draft. As we move on, we get the first round pick, number 32nd overall, and we picked up cornerback Chris Johnson, San Diego State. Now, I did put this in a mock draft simulator, so I am choosing these guys as if it was a real life draft. There are a lot of corners in this draft class that I really like. However, in today's mock draft, I decided to go with Chris Johnston. Based off of his combine profile, Johnson seems like a typical coverage corner who I believe would be an ideal choice to replace Reek Woolen. I think this guy, from what I've read about him, he is got all the measurables to play an inside role in nickel, or he has the ability to play an outside boundary role on the outside. So whether you want to move Devin Witherspoon to nickel this season, if you take a guy like Chris Johnson, or you want to, pair him up in the nickel and have Josh Jobe and Devin Witherspoon work on the outside boundary, that's up to you. He has a lot of skill in that department. And going off of Lane Zeitler's report on NFL.com, Johnson is also a pretty good tackler when it comes to wrapping up receivers and finishing off plays. And that's also very good. I think the Seahawks in the cornerback department have been looking for strong, surefire tacklers so that if a ball is caught, at least the corner can make a good tackle to make sure that he doesn't get as much run after catch. And that's something that I think Mike Macdonald really values in his corners. The only concern that I've read from about him from his draft profile was that he has a little bit of an issue with bigger bodied wide receivers and bigger running backs. They will probably get the best of him, but again, even in that draft profile, when that was a little bit of a knock, it was seen as like that shouldn't be as big of a problem for this guy. It's just something that you should note if the Seahawks or anybody goes to draft him. But overall, I think this is a pretty good first draft pick. And as we get to the player bio, we get all his stats from his college days. So in 2022, he played 12 games as a reserve on special teams, 6 tackles. In 2023, he played all 12 games as a reserve on special teams with 30 tackles, 1 interception and 1 PBU and 1 forced fumble. In 2024, he led the team with 3 forced fumbles and started 12 games, 67 tackles, an interception, and 4 PBUs. In 2025, he tied for the team lead with 4 interceptions, 2 returned for touchdowns, started 11 games with 49 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, with 1 sack and 9 PBUs and 1 forced fumbles. I hope the Seahawks do pick up either Chris Johnson or some of the other corners that I will be speaking about later on down the line. As we get to the second round, pick number 64, I picked up an edge rusher from Auburn in Tyron Crawford. I think after losing Boyamafe in free agency, the Seahawks definitely need another player in their edge rusher rotation, and that's why in the second round, I expect the Seahawks to go and get themselves an edge rusher. One of the reasons why I really like Crawford at this spot in the second round is due to the fact that he is a project. He only started playing in his senior year of high school when he transitioned to football from basketball. And what that really tells me is that, oh, he might need some polish in terms of trying to do some of the technical stuff and try to learn where his positioning is and all that kind of stuff at the NFL level. But this guy will be a terrific pass rusher if everything comes together with him. And I think in a Mike Macdonald system, you're going to see him, if the Seahawks pick him, he could be a very good fit because he'll probably be the 4th edge rusher in a group of guys that include Uchenna Nwosu, Derek Hall, and DeMarcus Lawrence, and he can learn from those guys and probably play in a spot. And I think he's a freak athlete. Like, one of the big things in his draft analysis profile was that he's very good at rushing the quarterback. He's very good at trying to run with intensity. He's very good at run stopping. So he's got all the physical tools for athleticism and everything. He just needs to polish up on some of his technique. And I believe with a coaching staff that Mike Macdonald has assembled, that would be a very good landing spot for the edge rusher at Auburn. So high school, he only played football in his senior year, earning regional defensive MVP, 78 tackles, 14 sacks. In 2022, he went to Arkansas State, played in 10 games as a reserve, 14 tackles, 3 tackles for loss with 1 sack and a PBU. In 2023, he stayed at Arkansas and played in all 13 games, 44 tackles, 11.5 tackles for loss with 5.5 sacks, 1 PBU, 2 forced fumbles, and a blocked kick. In 2024, he played in all 12 games as a reserve at Auburn, 22 tackles and a tackle for loss. And in 2025, he started all 12 games, 36 tackles, 5.5 tackles for loss with 5 sacks, 1 interception, and a forced fumble. We get to the third round, and with pick number 96, I selected a running back, Jonah Coleman from the Washington Huskies. So this is where I expect Seattle to take their running back. I think having a Washington running back is how the Seahawks are going to look at this. They're looking at local talent, and I think Coleman, based off of his combine draft analysis, could be a guy that Seattle looks to target. I think the Seahawks are always looking for guys to compete in their room, and especially their running back room. I did mention that Emmanuel Wilson is there. He just got signed, but you've got Zach Charbonnet, who's injured. You've got George Halani, and then you've got Cartier Wright. And taking a guy like Coleman, I would expect John Schneider again to take a running back. He always seems to at least use one pick in the draft over the past like 4-5 years to take a running back, and maybe this year he'll take a Washington Husky. They want guys in that running back room who can prove themselves to be useful, and I think Coleman has the abilities in his toolkit for the coaching staff to find him useful. In his draft profile, when I was looking at like pros and cons to these running backs, I was looking at it and going, okay, below average speed on both inside and outside runs. But one thing that really caught my eye is that not only is Coleman local to the Seattle area because he went to Washington, but he's also a very slippery kind of running back. He's not a tackle breaker. He'll usually just try to make you miss and slip past you, but he's also very patient. His ball carrier vision is also patient. He'll be able to wait and hit the holes when he needs to, and that is something I really like, and I think that John Schneider will be looking at in this year's draft for a guy that could be a third down back for them. Final pick of this mock draft, 6th round, 188 in this draft, and it's guard Bo Stevens from Iowa. For the last pick in this draft, I decided to pick up a guard. The reason I chose him was simple. I think, in my opinion, the Seahawks still have a right guard issue. Don't get me wrong. I believe that Anthony Bradford can be very good at certain points, but with his contract ending at the end of this year, picking up a guy like Stevens in the 6th round is a low-risk pickup for this team. From what I've read, Stevens is very good in pass pro, and he makes sure that he stays connected when dealing with edge rushers, not allowing them to slip by and get past him very easily. In his combine profile, the only knock on him was that his arms are a little bit shorter, so he will have possibly a little bit of a problem with his size at the NFL level. But we've all seen that criticism. There's been a lot of guys in the past that have had the short arms kind of comparison. I know Will Campbell was one of those guys this year. People were saying, oh, his arms are a little short, so he might have trouble, at the tackle position. But as a guard, I don't see that being a problem for Bo Stevens. I think he'll be just fine. And when we get to his player bio, 2021, he was a redshirt, played in 1 game as a reserve. In 2022, played in 12 games, with 10 starts at right guard. In 2023, played in 5 games as a reserve. 2024, he played in 12 games as a left guard. And in 2025, he started all 13 games at left guard, and the team won the Joe Moore Award for best interior offensive line in the country. So that is something that I think is very good. And you know what? Picking up a guard. I know people will probably look at that pick and go, why are you picking up a guard? You already got like Bryce Cable do. You got Mason Richmond. You've got a guy in Christian Haynes that was taken in the 3rd round out of UConn a couple of years ago. But again, it's a 6th round pick. It's a low risk player, and I think you can never have too many offensive linemen in your system to try and develop, especially with how good our offensive line coach has been over the past couple of seasons, ever since coming here in John Bolton from the Saints. I think picking up a guard is not a bad pickup. It's a low risk pick, in my opinion. Anyways, that is it for my first mock draft of 2026 for your Seattle Seahawks. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. How do you feel about my picks? Let me know your thoughts, and let me know how you feel what the Seahawks should take, who the Seahawks should take in this year's draft, because I'm really interested in your thoughts. Anyways, take care of yourselves, go Hawks go, and enjoy the rest of your day.